And we also read on Rupa Goswami's, we read on Rupa Goswami's disappearance day, we read some of the glorification of Rupa Goswami. And and it's just, I'm thinking on this theme of the Vaishnavas, how blessed we are to have the association of Vaishnavas. I'm reminded of one very beautiful section when Mahaprabhu meets with Sanatana Goswami. It's one of the most wonderful sections of Chaitanya Charitamrita. The whole of Chaitanya Charitamrita is very wonderful, but there are a few parts which are they're highlights, And in particular, like showing the Lord's love for his devotees and his mood of magnanimity. And like one section which touches me very much is when Mahaprabhu delivers Amog, the son-in-law of Sarvabhauma, right? It's very heart-touching Leela, right? Amoga, he's so envious, right? And critical, and of Mahaprabhu, and eventually, as a result of his offensive mentality, you can hear, Didi?
Yes,
okay. Something. You can come closer.
Yeah, come and sit.
Sit on the log.
Come and sit here. Come sit here.
Listen. I'm all right, Didi. I'm
scoot a bit closer.
I'm not that bad. It's just, I don't know, when I change my battery, I'll be able to. It's a silly situation, isn't it? It's a crazy situation, this life.
We're all going to be there too, dear.
Bits and pieces.
We're right behind you.
It's okay, you have to enjoy it, Oh, it's very fun, and laugh about it,
It's funny you say that, because I've been thinking about that a lot these last few days, because there's one talk of Gurudev. Chinmoy published it just recently, on that channel.
Yeah.
And Gurudev, he talks about that experience, that famous incident when he took a flight to St. Petersburg. Yeah. And then you heard about that, right? And then there were like serious problems with the plane, and it was like life or death, and they had to... They had to drop fuel from the plane.
Oh my
and it was really shaking, and it was really like they could, especially when they later heard details, they understood really it was like high probability it would be it, So there was this moment on the plane when everyone's kind of freaking out, and the train, the plane. I don't know. I don't remember the details. Maybe you were on that flight.
No.
Or Mukunda, maybe. I don't know.
No, I will be from now on. I don't remember it.
But it was really a matter of life and death, and everyone on the plane's realizing this, and everyone's starting to panic, but Gurudev was just joking, and he. Like he told Bhima. I heard from others also, and then I heard in this recording Gurudev was telling the story himself. That time Bimalananda was his personal servant, and he was telling Bimalananda, "Are you ready to die? Are you ready to die?"
Joking.
And Gurudev said, "I was not afraid." He said, "I was enjoying the moment." He used that word, enjoying. He said, "I was enjoying with the moment." And then he said, "Always I am enjoying, with whatever is happening, I am enjoying." So I really appreciate you saying that, because Gurudev, he showed that example. And I've been meditating on that a lot, how in every experience we go through, it's like if you watch a movie, right?
It's like that.
There's some rasa, right? There's some taste in everything, in sadness, in complaining, in disappointment, in happiness and in sorrow. There's some taste there, right? There's some flavor there, just like from a material perspective, if we can be objective, right? That's the key. Yeah. We have to be a little objective, be like an observer, be an observer of our life, So like yourself, have some humor, have some lightness about these things,
Yeah, it's true.
Even if you're on a plane that's about to crash, you can joke about it, because right? Everything's temporary, These things are just coming and going, right? Birth, death, youth, old age. It's all coming and going. Yeah. It's just, as Shakespeare says, all of life's a stage, right? It's all just a show that's going on. And the real thing is happening beneath. The real thing's happening on a more subtle level, right? Everything else is, coming and going, shifting, changing, right? So we can't be too caught up with it, So I appreciate your example, realization.
I'm glad.
It gives it's quite profound. It's quite profoundly been, percolating in my mind these last few days. It just really shifts your whole perspective on life and experiences. Well, now I'm feeling sick. Like, that's okay. Let me enjoy this moment.
Not always easy in all circumstances.
This is what Krishna wants me to go through right now, and that's good. It's all just that yet matras parshashtu kunteya sitoshna sukha dukkha da agama payino nityas tam tidiksha bharata, right? By the contact of the senses with the sense objects, we experience different sensations, heats, colds, and so on and so forth. But these things are all they're just on the surface. They're temporary. Then just tolerate it all. Tolerate your happiness, tolerate your sadness, tolerate wealth, tolerate poverty, It's all just a show, coming and going. But main thing is that inner cultivation, right? That inner thread with Guru and Gauranga and this high ideal. I wanted to read this part. So I was mentioning about I didn't finish about a mog. It's a very beautiful description in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He's been so offensive to Mahaprabhu, and as a result, he becomes very sick. And there's also, I find a lot of humor in it. It feels like a very kind of Indian moment too, like high drama, high emotion. So Mog becomes sick. He's on his deathbed. And meanwhile, Sarvabhauma and his family, they've been they've been absolutely devastated because their family member was so offensive to the Lord, right? And Sarvabhauma had been contemplating so many things. Like, well, maybe I should just kill him, because he's been so offensive. And then he thinks, well, it's mentioned in the scriptures that one should not kill a Brahmin. It is very sinful, so I shouldn't kill him. Then he's thinking, well, maybe I should just kill myself, but I'm also a Brahmin, so that won't be good, all kinds of things are going through his head, and meanwhile Mahaprabhu's he's happy, and because there was this incident, Sarvabhauma invited Mahaprabhu for prasadam, and he offered so many opulent preparations, which normally a sannyasi wouldn't take, and Mahaprabhu didn't like to take that. But Sarvabhauma really wanted to give this, and so Mahaprabhu accepted. But Amoga, he snuck in, and Sarvabhauma was guarding the door with a stick to keep Amog out, literally. But he managed to sneak in, and he saw Mahaprabhu eating all these dishes, and immediately he started criticizing. And Mahaprabhu was just joking and laughing, and yes, you're right, actually, it is not correct for me to take all of this, So Mahaprabhu was very light about everything. But Sarvabhauma was absolutely devastated, and then some days later, Mahaprabhu he hears, there's a lot going on with the Bhattacharyas, right? So he goes to visit Sarvabhauma, and he finds Sarvabhauma and his wife are fasting and crying and lamenting, and then he goes to visit Amog, and Amog's on his deathbed, It's high Bollywood drama, high drama situation. And then there's this really beautiful exchange between Mahaprabhu and Amog, and of course by now Amog, he's been caused to reflect, right, on his actions. The environment has helped him, right? we want to get out of this frame of thinking of like punishment, right? But it's like these things come as reactions to help us reflect on our deeds. It's not like, karma, or this is on a different level from karma, but it's not like it's just vindictive punishment for the sake of punishment. It's meant to be corrective. It's meant to give you an opportunity to reflect, right? So Mog, of course, he's realizing the error of his ways, and so he's in a totally different space. And Mahaprabhu comes, and Mahaprabhu puts his hand on his chest, and he says, "Oh, Amoga," he says, "you are a Brahmin, and the heart of a Brahmin is supposed to be very pure. Why have you let this ghost, this witch of envy, come and enter your heart? Why have you allowed this to enter the temple of your heart?" And then he says in a very like rousing tone, "Oh Amog, get up, take Krishna Nam, and you will get everything through that. Forget about everything. Just take Krishna Nam. You will be saved." Very beautiful, beautiful moment.
There wasn't some slaps in that in that last encounter when he wakes up. Didn't Mahaprabhu like slap him?
Maybe.
I heard from Janara Maharaj, I think.
Maybe. There are definitely some slaps that go on in Chaitanya Charitamrita. There are some slapping moments. I'm not sure if that's one of them, but maybe. But they didn't have that. Normally that would be something Mahaprabhu would express to someone more intimate. They weren't that intimate. But like with Rupa Goswami, he does that. There's a moment when he slaps Rupa Goswami.
Okay.
I remember that. Possible. Advaita also gets slapped. Right. These are like the intimate inner crew. It wouldn't be so easy to get a slap from Mahaprabhu. Advaitacharya had to work really hard to get that slap. Like really, he had to work for that. Not so easy to be chastised by the pure Vaishnava. Do you know that story? Yeah. And so this is another section which is so beautiful. It's the moment when Sanatan meets with Mahaprabhu after having left behind his government service. This is also, just from a material point of view, like some of these pastimes, they would be like blockbuster Hollywood movies. Like you don't need to watch any. Like if you're just looking for, like some enjoyment in hearing wonderful histories and stories. Like everything is here. You can't compare. Of course, we don't want to approach with that material mindset, but really, it is wholly complete. So Sanatan's he's been put in jail, right? Because he's going against the wicked Muslim governor who was his boss, and he has to bribe his way out of jail. He narrowly escapes death, traveling in dangerous territory, and avoids some temptation along the way, and finally he makes it to the doorstep of Mahaprabhu's residence in Varanasi. And he's a complete mess, he's got this beard, he's very dirty. He looks like a Muslim also because he's been working for the Muslim government. So he's like unrecognizable, like very raggedy clothes, and he reaches the doorstep of where Mahaprabhu is staying at the home of Chandrasekhar maybe. And he's feeling shy to enter. So that meeting is very beautiful. Here it is. Okay, so I'll go back a little bit. So on the way, he stopped in one place and he happened to meet, it's his brother-in-law, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he's the husband of Sanatan's sister. So he's like a wealthy gentleman in government service. It's his brother-in-law. Teho kohe dindui Rohoestane Banjahao Chane Malin Vasane. Sri Kanta then told Sanatana Goswami, stay here for at least 2 days and dress up like a gentleman. Abandon these dirty garments. Gosai kohe kan ihanaro hibo, Ganga par korideho, ekane cholibo. Sanatana replied, I shall not stay here even for a moment. Please help me cross the Ganges. I shall leave immediately. So this is actually Acharya Maharaj used to like to tell this pastime because there are some interesting moments here, very instructive. Like here, Sri Kanta saying, oh, stay, be comfortable, get yourself set up a bit, at least get some nice clothes. And not to say, I'm not staying for one moment, like I'm on a mission, I have something to do. And then another interesting moment is, on this journey earlier, is he has this servant with him, right? Ishan. Is it Ishan? I think it was Ishan. Ishan. And Mahaprabhu had given him 8 gold coins. Or is it? Yeah, it was 8 gold coin. What was it exactly that? I'm trying. Do you remember the details of that?
Vaguely. Long time without going through it.
So he had these 8 gold coins that he gave to his servant. They had vast wealth, right? They were the finance minister and prime minister, right? Of the Muslim governments. They were very wealthy, but they gave everything away. They kept some percentage and stored in some places. They gave money in charity. But at this moment, Sanatan, he doesn't, and he just made a major bribe to get out of prison.
Yeah, something like.
Which was also quite funny, Like he told the jailkeeper, it is mentioned in the scriptures, if you deliver someone from bondage, you will also be delivered from bondage. And he's like referring to the idea of from like material bondage, but he kind of like. He's kind of like playing with this man and like in a saying, if you let me out of prison, then this will be good for your future, life, your freedom from the material world, like this, The idea is really that if someone releases you from material bondage, right? But Sanatan's kind of playing on the message and saying, if you let me out of this bondage in the prison, And the man is simple-hearted, he goes along with it. He tells him, I want to go to Mecca, for a pilgrimage to Mecca. And so it's also interesting because, Sanatan, he's a great devotee, right? But he also he's streetwise, he knows how to navigate his environment. And also, then later, they're traveling in dangerous. They can't travel on the main road because they're fugitives, so they have to travel on these back routes in dangerous country areas. And then there's this other moment when he doesn't really know his way around, and it's dangerous. There's many thieves and such around, and so they stop at one place to spend the night, and there's it's like some inn, right? And he asks the man there in charge, can you help us to get across this area? We need a guide. And the man is super, super friendly. Oh yes, please stay with us. We'll take care of you. We'll get you across. And Sanata's immediately suspicious. Why is this man being so friendly? And he can understand, that he has a plan. He's probably planning to rob us or something. And it specifically mentions in Chaitanya Charitamrita, let me see if I can find it here. He specifically mentions that, let me find it, it's quite funny, that Sanatana Goswami, he was the prime minister, so he was very intelligent, he had these kind of smarts, he could recognize, And here we are. Okay, so here it is. So the landlord, he offered Sanatan some food, like for free. He gave him some grains to cook. And then it says, Sanatan had been fasting for 2 days. So he cooked the food and ate it. However, having formerly been a minister of the Nawab, he began to contemplate the situation. So he accepted the gift because he's hungry, but he's also like, hang on, he's suspicious, So I like this example too, how, we're meant to be kind of grounded in the world, right? And have some awareness and know how to interface with our environment in different situations. We're not meant to just be all, as Gurudev said, Hari Bol all the time, No, but we need to be a little smart, right? And know how to deal with things. He told that to, he made a few comments like that, but one he made to Yudamanyu Prabhu. He said, when you're preaching in China, you have to be a little smart and clever about it. He said, don't be Hari Bol in China. He said like that. So that was it. That's what had happened. That Sanatan had actually, because carrying money with you, right? It's like if you go to like a ghetto, right? You're not going to go with like all your money with you and all your credit cards, right? Because that would be a foolish thing to do. So Sanatan had actually given everything away, wasn't carrying anything with him. But then when this landlord was acting like this towards him, he asked his servant Ishan, "Are you carrying anything with you? You carrying any valuables with you?" And then his servant told him, Ishan, I have 7 gold coins with me. He had secretly held on to that. And then Sanatana's like, this is so foolish. Why are you carrying? We're in a very dangerous territory. Why are you bringing this with you? This is like a death knell, he says. So then Sanatana says, we have to give this money to this man, otherwise he's going to kill it for us. So they give that money to that man the next morning. And the man is very happy. And he says, I have this astrologer. They have these Jyotishas, right? And they can make these calculations, like who has money and where it's coming from. And so that man, he said, my astrologer told me that you had 8 gold coins with you. It's 8. Right? But his servitor said 7. Yeah, so he lied to Sanatana. So he says, I'm very happy you've given me this money because my astrologer told me you were carrying 8 gold coins, and I've been saved from the sin of having to kill you for that money. And then Shah's like, aha. And he's like, Ishan, do you have anything else with you? Like, I have 1 more gold coin with me. And then Sanatan says, take that gold coin, go on your way. Go on your way. It's very heavy, very heavy. And think about it, right? Who is Sanatan Goswami? And what does it mean to have his association? Where is Sanatan going? He's going to see Mahaprabhu in Vrindavan. Is there anything in existence that could, in all time and space, that could possibly be better than that? It's just, there's not, But he prefers his 1 gold coin. Yeah. So it's something to think about, right? For ourselves, right? How much wealth, spiritual opportunity is there for us, and we hold on to very tiny, insignificant little things that we think are so important. Very interesting. And then finally, and Ishan does that. He takes his gold coin and he goes on his way. So then finally, after all these adventures, Sanatan reaches Varanasi. Okay. Tobe Varanasi gosai aila koto dine, shuniyanandita hoila prabhuragamane. After a few days, Sanatan Goswami arrived at Varanasi. He was very pleased to hear about Mahaprabhu's arrival there. Chandrasekhar gore
Asi dwarete bosila, Mahaprabhu jani Chandra Shekhare kohila.
Sanatana Goswami then went to the house of Chandrasekhar and sat down by the door. Understanding what was happening, Mahaprabhu spoke to Chandrasekhar. So, Sanatana's outside, Mahaprabhu's inside. Mahaprabhu, through his omniscience, he can perceive, right? Sanatana is there, you can feel his presence.
Dware ek Vaishnav hoye, bolo hota hare, Chandrasekhar deke Vaishnav, nahi ko dware.
Mahaprabhu, he tells Chandrasekhar, there's a Vaishnava at your door, please call him in. Going outside, Chandrasekhar could not see a Vaishnava at his door. Dwarete, because remember, Sanatana's looking, like a Muslim beggar. When Chandrasekhar informs the Lord that no Vaishnava was at his door, the Lord asked him, is there anyone at all at your door?
Teo kohek dadave Ch.Ch dware, Tare ana Prabhu vake kohilo tare.
Chandrasekhar replied, there is a Muslim mendicant. Mahaprabhu immediately said, bring him here, please bring him here. Chandrasekhar then spoke to Sanatana, who was still sitting beside the door.
Prabhu tomai bolai aisa daravesh, Shuni anande Sanatan korila pravesh.
O Muslim mendicant, Daravesh, they say, please come in, the Lord is calling you. Sanatana Goswami was very pleased to hear this order, and he entered Chandrasekhar's house.
Tahare angane deki Prabhu daya haila, Tare alingan kori prema vishta hoila.
As soon as Mahaprabhu saw Sanatana Goswami in the courtyard, he immediately went up to him with great haste. After embracing him, the Lord was overwhelmed with ecstatic love.
Prabhu sparshe prema vishta hoila Sanatan, Morena chuniha kohe gangana vachan.
As soon as Mahaprabhu touched Sanatana Goswami, Sanatana was also overwhelmed with ecstatic love. In a faltering voice, he said, "O my Lord, do not touch me."
Duijane gala gali rodana par, deki Chandrasekhare hoilo chamatkar.
Shoulder to shoulder, Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami began to cry unlimitedly. Chandrasekhar was very much astonished to see this. So Chandrasekhar has no idea who Sanatana is, right? and he's seeing this, Muslim beggar, embracing Mahaprabhu's embrace. Mahaprabhu is crying in ecstasy. It's very puzzling to him.
Tove Prabhu tar hat dori loya gela, pindar upare apan pashe bosaila.
Catching his hand, Mahaprabhu took Sanatana Goswami inside and made him sit on an elevated place next to him.
Shri haste korintar anga samarjan, teho kohe more Prabhu nakoro sparshan.
When Mahaprabhu began cleansing Sanatana Goswami's body with his own transcendental hands, they use this phrase often, I don't know, but many times you see it, the Shri Haste, Shri Hasta, means the Shri hand, Hasta's hand. So they say the Shri hand of Mahaprabhu. Very beautiful. So with his own Shri hands, Mahaprabhu's cleansing his body. Sanatana Goswami said, "Oh my Lord, please do not touch me." Because he's feeling so dirty, right?
Prabhu kohe tomas parshi.
And can anyone remember, question time, can anyone remember another incident in Chaitanya Charitamrita when Mahaprabhu was trying to embrace Sanatana, and Sanatana's also telling Mahaprabhu?
When he was covered with sores.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Yeah, he could develop this condition with contacting bad water, right? So he had these sores on his body. And the oozing pus. But Mahaprabhu is insisting and trying, but Sanatana, no.
The Lord replied, I am touching you just to purify myself, because by the force of your devotional service you can purify the whole universe. Bhavad Vidha Bhagavat, now this is a famous verse in Bhagavatam, spoken by Yudhisthira to Vidura, his uncle. Right? Vidura had gone on pilgrimage, and then when he came back, he met with Yudhisthira in Hastinapur, and Yudhisthira says, you don't need to go on pilgrimage. Great saints like you can purify the places of pilgrimage. You can purify the holy places. Very beautiful verse. Bhavad Vidha Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhuta Swayam Prabho Tirti Korvanti Tirtani Swantastena Gadabhrata. Saints of your caliber are themselves places of pilgrimage. Because of their purity, they are constant companions of the Lord, and therefore they can purify even the places of pilgrimage. Name Bhaktas Chaturvedi Madbhakta Swapachapriya Tasmai Deyam Tutograyam Sacha Pujo Yatahaham. So these are now some verses which are glorification of the Vaishnava. This is what I was thinking of earlier. This is a quotation from somewhere, which is included in Hari Bhakti Vilas. It's by Lord Krishna. Even though a person is a very learned scholar of the Sanskrit Vedic literatures, he is not accepted as my devotee unless he is pure in devotional service. However, even though a person is born in a family of dog-eaters, he is very dear to me if he is a pure devotee who has no motive to enjoy fruitive activity or mental speculation. So this is Mahaprabhu. Because Sanatan's saying like, oh, I'm contaminated, right? But Mahaprabhu is saying, any consideration of material contamination has no meaning. It is the devotion that is to be considered. And that is the highest purity. So even if a person is born in a family of dog-eaters, they are pure to me. They are dear, very dear to me if they are a pure devotee who has no motive to enjoy fruitive activity or mental speculation. Indeed, all respect should be given to him, and whatever he offers should be accepted. Such devotees are as worshipable as I am. And this reminds me of this incident, very funny, with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Because remember, it's kind of hard to relate to some of this in a Western environment, but in India, there are, or especially were, many rigid societal conventions regarding these points, right? You won't accept food from someone. Even amongst Brahmins, there are different classes of Brahmins. You won't accept, if you're a higher class Brahmin, you won't take food from a lower class Brahmin, right? There are so many things like, what to speak of like someone from a Shudra, the lowest caste. And so but in Vaishnavism, there's no consideration of these things. So there's this one incident we heard from Gurudev. Some of you know this story, I'm sure. When Saraswati Thakur, he was a brilliant scholar, right? And this was when he was still living in Mayapur, before he went on to start this grand movement throughout India. He had a small place in Mayapur and was slowly building up his mission, and a few people, supporting him. But his renown as a scholar was starting to spread, and sometimes different scholars would come and discuss or debate with him, right? And so there was one Mayavadi scholar who had come one day and was speaking with Saraswati Thakur. And then as they're speaking some time, and then comes time for the noon prasad, the midday afternoon lunch prasad. And one lady, a devotee who was doing service in the temple, she came with a plate of prasad. And she came into the room and she left it. You heard this story. And she left it on the table and she said, oh, Prabhu, here's your prasad. And she went out. And that gentleman who was visiting, he could see, by her
appearance and manner. She was from a lower caste. And he said to Saraswati Thakur, oh, you will eat that? She's touched that. And Saraswati Thakur, let me get it exactly right, how he responded. He said, he said, she is a Vaishnava, right? So he said, she is a Vaishnava. I will take whatever she gives me. Whatever comes from the hand of a Vaishnava is pure. And then Saraswati Thakur added, he said, but another consideration is that she's bringing prasad. So then he said, so even if you gave it to me, I would still take it. Like just totally smashing his whole conception, Like actually, you're the one in the lower position. You're Mayavadi. I wouldn't want to take anything from you. And she's a Vaishnava, I'll take. However, it is prasad. So even if you give it to me, I'll take it. So it's very revolutionary, within the Vedic, standard Vedic culture. And Gurudev, he would also, like Janardhan Maharaj, he tells how Gurudev would kind of shook up these ideas too, and he would take prasadam from his plate sometimes. Janardhan Maharaj, from a Vedic perspective, right? He's coming from a Mlecha, Western background, but Gurudev would take from his plate sometimes, and also sometimes he'd tell others, like he mentioned in particular that, what's his name? Giri Maharaj, right? He was a disciple of Bhakti Saranga Goswami, and you maybe you know him, of course, and I don't know if you when your time. Yeah, he came and he was still there. He had like a kind of a hunchback. You remember him?
He came always with the paragraph.
Yeah, like a white beard sometimes.
Yeah, very noble, especially for a Bengali. Very tall, and noble looking. Yeah, even though with his back became hunched, so you can see he comes from a very high level, lineage. But Gurudev's telling him, testing, playing with him, and of course he's taking. So he would tease Tirtha Maharaj like that too. Because Tirtha Maharaj comes from a high Brahminical background. So showing, what comes from the Vaishnava is pure.
But I didn't understand Babu Gurudev.
Oh, sorry, to tell them to eat from
the
from the Westerners' plate,
right.
From Janardhan Maharaj's plate.
Right.
With Tirtha Maharaj, it was another incident. Maybe that also happened, but what I was thinking of was he told Tirtha Maharaj to eat chocolate on Ekadashi. Because normally Gurudev would tell devotees not to take chocolate on Ekadashi, But because Tirtha Maharaj is coming from a rigid, Brahminical background, very strict about all these things, then, Gurudev liked to play with devotees. And try and. He did that to Uma also, actually. It was some chocolate that had some impure ingredient in it. Uma, she's very staunch and strong and strict, and he told her there's some sweet that had some ingredient in it, that wasn't so paka. And Gurudev told her to eat this, and she said, oh, but Gurudev, it has such and such in it. And then Gurudev again told her, eat this, So it's that niyamagraha, right? In Upadeshamrita. To be too slack on the rules is not good, but also too rigid on the rules is not good. So, but that's going in a little bit of a different discussion from the point here. I'll just read a little. There's one verse in particular I wanted to read. And then another verse here. I'll just read the translation. This is from Prahlad in Bhagavatam. One may be born in a Brahmin family and have all 12 Brahminical qualities. But if he is not devoted to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who has a navel shaped like a lotus, he is not as good as a Chandala, means a dog eater, who has dedicated his mind, words, activities, wealth, and life to the service of the Lord.
Simply to take birth in a Brahmin family or to have Brahminical qualities is not sufficient. One must become a pure devotee of the Lord. If a Swapacha or Chandal is a devotee, he delivers not only himself but his whole family. Whereas a Brahmin who is not a devotee but simply has Brahminical qualifications cannot even purify himself, what to speak of his family. You know, another thing, comment of Gurudev's, that I think about from time to time, because it's a little bit mysterious, you know, that he commented once. I heard it from Goswami Maharaj, I think he quoted it, that he said, and Gurudev may have been quoting from some other place, he said, a Brahmin is clean until he leaves his home. A Brahmin is only clean as long as he's within his own abode, right? But as soon as he leaves his domain, then he becomes contaminated again, right? You know, because we're living if you're like in that plane of material purity and material impurity, you know, it's very difficult to control that, actually. You know, we live in a world of contamination, so it's an interesting thing to contemplate, right? There are different points connected to consider, you know. So I've been meditating, because I don't remember hearing any context to that comment either. So I've been meditating on different, you know, related ideas to that, you know, that. But what came to me recently is like, you know, we try to follow the sattvic way, right, the Brahminical way as much as possible, but we cannot be too fanatical about it, you know, because you can only maintain that up to a point, and then ultimately that's not the real purpose of what we're doing, right? We're interested in a higher spiritual purity. Because I was also contemplating like some things that Gurudev did, which, like, actually according to the Vedic standard, they're not really so you know, 100%, you know, like for example, Gurudev, he put he made en-suites, right? En-suite bathrooms, en-suite bedrooms, right? That included bathrooms inside the room, which really, according to the Vedic way, you don't do that.
Yeah,
You know, it's the toilet and the shower. You know, well, having the toilet and the shower in the same space is actually not really clean, actually. And then having that inside of your room, you know, like according to the proper Brahminical standard, this isn't acceptable, you know. But then Gurudev's, he's you know, first of all, he's considering this is what is convenient for the Westerners, right? In the earlier buildings, you don't have that, it's separate. The toilet there's like a division between the toilet and the shower, and that's all separate from the bedroom, right? But Gurudev's considering, you know, this is convenient. The Westerners, they're accustomed to this. It's comfortable for the Westerners, and it's also convenient in a general sense for anyone. It's very convenient to have that, you know. Because sometimes I feel like I really appreciate having an ensuite room, like with your own bathroom, own shower. I really appreciate it. But then sometimes I also feel like it's not super clean, you know. Then I think, well, Gurudev allowed that, you know. And then reminding myself, we can't get stuck on these things, you know, because we're living in you know, you can be super clean, and then you walk out your room, and then something happens, you know. Little child comes, and you become contaminated, right? A child is sucking their mouth, they touch you, you're dirty. Like, then you just have to like be a little free about these things, you know.
It's also Kali Yuga.
It's Kali Yuga, yeah. Even this, you know, like I'm drinking my tea here. I'm touching my water bottle, like, how many places has this been? And then I'm touching the book, you know?
Your behaviour is outrageous behaviour, isn't it?
But you know, like I've observed Tirtha Maharaj is very proper, like all the time, you know. Like for example, you know, when we would set up the morning class, right? You lay out the carpet. And that carpet, like everybody's foot dust is on that carpet, you know. And then we go and we touch the book, right?
Bring the book covering a white cloth. I have seen that in
But like Tirthamarsh, he would wash his hand. Like after, if he would touch like a mat or something, he'd go and wash his hands, you know. Or one time I sat near him during Prasadam, and I had a phone call, and so of course that's not proper, right? I take the phone calls during. It was from Acharya Maharaj, so I think it was something urgent, and afterwards Tirthamarsh, I remember he was concerned, and he specifically told me like to make sure I washed. I think he told me to clean the phone. I think that's what, because I was eating prasadam and then I touched the phone, and you know, and then later I'll be using the phone in different. So he's like, he was concerned, like I needed to be clean, you know. So, so it's nice to be conscious and try to follow to some extent, you know. But it's not practical, you know. As you said, it's Kali Yuga. Even if we're following the standard, nobody else is, you know, then you can't really maintain it, right? So then we have to think, you know, we get relief by this consideration. What is real purity? You know, real purity is what is in Krishna's interest, right? What is real purity is in the expression of devotion, dedication. Then we get some relief from all these considerations of Brahminical, you know, purity. Well, maybe we'll stop there. There were a couple, actually the main verse I wanted to read, I didn't. Okay, maybe I'll read it. Yeah. This is getting a little late, but okay, yeah, it's just these two. This is what I wanted to read. It's so beautiful. Toma deki toma sparshi gaya toma gun Sarvendriya Phole Shastra Nirupan. Mahaprabhu continued. By seeing you, Toma Deki, you recognize this, right? Toma Deki. By seeing you, Toma Sparshi. Do you remember Sparsha? Touch. Touch. By touching you, so by seeing you, by touching you, by glorifying your transcendental qualities, Gai Tomar Gun, by chanting your glories. One can perfect the purpose of all sense activity. This is the verdict of the revealed scriptures. So to see the Vaishnava is the perfection of eyesight. To touch the Vaishnava is the perfection of touch. And to glorify the Vaishnava is the perfection of speech. You know? This is the fulfillment of all the senses. And then he quotes this verse. Where is it? Is it from? I think it's from Bhagavatam. Very beautiful. This is also a fairly well-known verse. Akno phalam tvajisha darshanam hi tano phalam tvajisha gatra sangha jiva phalam tvajisha kirtanam hi sudurlabha bhagavata hi loke. My dear Vaishnava. Oh no, it's the Hari Bhakti Sudodoi, this verse. My dear Vaishnava, seeing a person like you is the perfection of one's eyesight. Touching your lotus feet is the perfection of the sense of touch. And glorifying your good qualities is the tongue's real activity. For in the material world, it is very difficult to find a pure devotee of the Lord. And another incident with Gurudev that comes to mind is he told how when he was like very young in the mat, you know, then Gurudev said like he wasn't always so strict about following all the, you know, all these Brahminical things, you know, because he was just focused on the seva, and so sometimes some of the godbrothers of Srila Sridhar Maharaj would chastise him. And they're also a little jealous, right? Because Gurudev was like the new, young, bright, beloved disciple of Sridhar Maharaj. And so he mentioned, for example, that when he went to, because according to the proper Brahminical standard, even when you go to pass urine, you're meant to take off your clothes, take off all your clothes. And Gurudev said, you know, I'm going so many times in the day, you know, so I wouldn't take off I take off something, you know. And so he said somebody chastised him. And then Gurudev, he's also like a little cheeky, right? He didn't always stand for all this, you know, like, you know, he's like, proud, this like kind of arrogant behavior. You didn't always stand for it. You could be a little cheeky and a little naughty. And so he replied to him, because Srila Maharaj had given him the Gaudiya Kantahara, this book with collection of preaching verses. And not just preaching, but establishing the Siddhanta, right? That were used by Saraswati Thakur. And Gurudev, he told Acharya Maharaj something like, if you memorize this, you'll be 80% good preacher, something like that. And so then Gurudev, he quoted one verse that's in there, and it's saying that, it says, first we will conquer the mode of ignorance through the mode of passion. Then we will conquer the mode of passion through the mode of goodness, right? And then with Shuddha Sattva, right? With pure, transcendental, nirgun goodness. Then we will conquer Sattva Gun, the ordinary, worldly mode of goodness. And then the last line says, or you can surrender to the pure Vaishnava and you will get everything. You'll get everything. So then Gurudev quoted that verse to that devotee. I'm just serving Guru Maharaj, okay? Like, I'll get everything through that, don't worry. And then that devotee, he got very angry. And he went to Srila Maharaj and he complained. He said, this is a very dangerous book, this Gaudiya Kantahara. Why did you give him this book, Now he thinks he's a smart aleck, He knows better than us,
Wow.
Yeah, I heard Gurudev telling that one of the tapes.
Yeah, beautiful.
Wow.
Too much beautiful.
Is this book available?
The Gaudiya Kantahara, yes.
Very much available.
Very much available, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very nice book for the devotees to read. It has different sections, like Krishna Tattva, Gora Tattva, Guru Tattva, and then so many verses elaborating on these different points. Sadhana, all these things. Mahamantra, will you lead us in Harinam Sankirtan?
Hari Hare Rama Krishna Hare Rama.
Hari Hare
Rama Krishna Hare Rama.
Ch.Ch.
Harinama Sankirtan ki jai, Guru Kartak ki jai, Dasan Devotees ki jai, worldwide devotees ki jai,